has been staying, up to date with their classes. I know that this has been a unique shift over the past 48 hours, really. A lot has happened within CSUF. And so we want to make sure that we are still staying in good practice with the sessions that we had, so we can bring you the best possible information regarding NUF. Thank you all. We'll go ahead and get started. Please, at any point, if you have any questions whatsoever regarding the NUF program or anything that we cover, feel free to just chat away in the chat box, and we will go ahead and address it. And without further ado, I will go ahead and share my screen so that we are able to move forward with the NUF session. Okay. So I'll go ahead and pop this up really quick here. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can do my chat info here. Perfect. Let's see, move this over. Great. Okay. Now I don't know if the chat is visible because I'm sharing my screen. So I would greatly appreciate if you all can tell me if you can see the chat box here. Nate, can you see the chat box, or can you just see the?
No.
I see my own chat box.
See your own chat box? Okay, and everybody can just see the PowerPoint, correct?
Yes.
Perfect, fantastic. Well, perfect, that's all I needed to know. So I have the chat box on here in case anything does come up, I can go ahead, or Nate can go ahead and answer it or address it. So as I mentioned, this is the California State University NASPA Undergraduate Fellows Program, or NUF. I'll go ahead and introduce myself first and then hand it over to Nate. So my name is Samuel Morales. I use he, him pronouns, and I serve as the Assistant Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life within the office, the Department of Student Life and Leadership. I have now am heading into, well, this upcoming year will be my third year overseeing the NUF program. I am also a Titan alum, so I completed my undergraduate degree at Cal State Fullerton. Unfortunately, when I was an undergrad, we did not have the NUF program yet, but I truly believe in its mission. There's a reason why I conduct this work as a core, and I continue on and truly enjoy this work. I went on to work after my undergraduate degree. I worked in TRIO programs and then worked my way into student life and leadership as the coordinator of fraternity sorority life, and then later actually leaving to graduate school. So I attended Iowa State University, where I obtained my master's in student affairs. During my time there, I had experiences in housing, sexual assault and prevention, as well as student wellness and assessment. And now my previous role was actually in Nate's position as the coordinator of DIRC. So I was the inaugural coordinator there. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Nate so he can do his brief introduction.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nate Nguyen. I use he, him, his pronouns. I currently work as the coordinator for diversity initiatives and resource centers, DIRC. I got started in student affairs about 10 years ago, working as paraprofessionals in different roles, supporting students in student success centers. And I work a lot in academic advising, international education, and now working in diversity educations. Very happy to be here, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions later. And I'll turn that back to you, Samuel.
Thank you so much. And so Nate and I just want to get a little brief idea of who is in the chat right now. So if you all can just briefly type in the group chat your name, the year, their preferred pronouns, the year you're currently in, and why the interest in NUF. So we'll give a couple seconds there so you all can kind of type that in, and you can kind of see what the rest of your potential cohort mates share a little bit about themselves. So we'll give a little bit of time there so you all can type away in the group chat. Awesome, Marisabel. So I see you also go by Mars. Pronoun she, hers, they, them. Fourth year, fantastic. Chicano Resource Center on campus. Nice. Student lead, I would assume. Do you have a student lead position particularly, Marisabel? Fantastic, social justice lead. Thank you so much for sharing, Mars. Who's next? Christopher, thank you. He, him, CTVA major. Gonna have to help me on that one. I haven't heard of that one yet, but pursuing student affairs, fantastic. Yes, you are definitely in the right chat if you are pursuing that, and you are currently serving as an orientation leader. Thank you so much. Nathan Ortiz has also joined. Fantastic. Thank you. Fantastic. We also have Valeria here. Okay, fourth year, human services, I believe. Also working in the CRC as a programming lead. Fantastic. So you all already know each other a little bit about each other. That's fantastic. Thank you, Christopher, for the clarification. Second year, fantastic. Thank you so much. Oh, this PowerPoint is acting up already, so I'm just going to go back. Nathan, he, him, interested enough, orientation leader this summer, great. And tour guide, fantastic. Anthony, fourth year, business major in Asian American Studies minor, fantastic. And Carmen, she, hers, Aya, third year criminal justice sociology major. And you want to go ahead and get student affairs about 4 weeks ago. You're in the right space. So hopefully some of those interests can go ahead and keep sparking on. I appreciate all of you for sharing a little bit about yourselves. And again, as we go on in this presentation, please, if you have any questions, type away.
I'd like to shout out to Angela, who's also here. She is one of our current NUFP fellows, and she's here to join us. And if you have other questions, Angela might be able to pop in and answer some of those questions later as well. Thank you, Angela, for being
here.
Yeah, Andrew's here too.
Yep, here.
Andrew, so fantastic. We have two current NUFs. We will definitely be tapping into both of you a little later on. And just so we can kind of spark your mind right now, a little bit of what we would like you to share. It's just your overall experience, maybe how you heard about it, maybe the growth that has occurred. So just be prepared to share a little bit about that later on in the presentation. But thank you both for being here. We highly appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So what is student affairs? Student affairs, well, let me give you the very technical definition. Student affairs is the department or division of services and support for student success at institutions of higher education to enhance student growth and development. People who work in this field are known as student affairs practitioners or student affairs professionals. They provide services and support for students and drive student learning outside of the classroom at institutions of higher learning. Whew, that was a mouthful. So the way that I like to simplify it is everything outside of the academic realm that happens in the classroom is student affairs to a degree. So some spitballing fields are advising, student life, multicultural work, or in our particular institution is DIRC, orientation, which some of you have participated, recruitment also, and then outreach. So all of those different aspects belong to student affairs. I know that we have some housing, some RAs also online. So Andrew is an RA, one of our current NUFs. That is also a major portion of student affairs. So student affairs encompasses a very, very large web of professions. And some of that will be explored in the NUF program. You know, what you may see or may heard of on the very superficial level, such as advising, such as housing, is only the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more layers into student affairs practitioner work and professions. So that is some aspects of what student affairs is. So NASPA is kind of the branch that runs the whole gambit with regarding student affairs. So NASPA stands for Student Affairs Administrators in Higher Education. I think I may have watched that a little bit, but NASPA has been empowering student affairs community since 1918. So this has been a well-established organization for quite some time. They just finished celebrating their 100-year anniversary in Los Angeles not too long ago. And it's one of the leading associations for the advancement, health, and sustainability of student affairs professionals. So this is where we get a lot of our professional growth throughout different layers, undergraduates such as yourselves as a future cohort, new, mid-level, senior professionals. Also, again, continue to learn through these conferences. They also provide advocacy and research to best practices. And as of most recently, they have about 15,000 members in all 50 states, 25 countries, and 8 US territories. So student affairs, even though it's known by that name here in the United States, also stretches throughout the whole world. Most commonly is known as student services, but as you can see, NASPA outreaches throughout the whole globe to continue to provide the best possible development for professionals as well as undergraduates and grad students. So that's kind of the house of NUF. That's where it came from. As far as the actual program itself, so the NASPA Undergraduate Fellows Program, or as you will commonly know it as NUF. So this is the mission. This is what drives our kind of common goal with each cohort. So the mission of NUF is to increase the number of historically disenfranchised and underrepresented professionals in student affairs and or higher education, including but not limited to those of racial and ethnic minority backgrounds, those having a disability, or those identifying as LGBTQ plus individuals. So kind of a brief history lesson. Higher education, as you would come to know, was not made for individuals of minoritized groups. It was primarily made by white upper class men to start off with, slowly started opening its gate to women. And as time progressed and desegregation happened, minoritized groups began to lead into higher education institutions. However, positions still remained fairly white. And so the goal of NASPA was to develop a pipeline to inspire and sort of prepare students to enter graduate schools for these professions from minoritized groups in the hopes that individuals who are attending these higher education institutions can see more of themselves throughout the field. And you may see that a little bit now more within CSUF. You have professionals that you may identify, whereas before that may have not been the case. And so we are proud for this mission. We continue to move forward with it. And we continue to strive to get all of you, into the future, into a grad school, if this is a profession that you choose to do, so you can further inspire the next generation of minoritized groups. So that is kind of a tidbit of that. As far as little aspects of the NUF program itself, so NUF mentor students from traditionally underrepresented and historically disenfranchised populations, as I was mentioning. The program diversifies and broadens the pipeline of student affairs professionals, as I touched on a little bit. And students and mentors apply as a pair. So what I mean by this is you have the opportunity to, connect more deeply with a mentor that you may have in mind, or we can assist you in finding a mentor, somebody that would really guide your, somebody that would really guide your curiosity towards the field. And the application process as a pair means that you're committed to one another. Mentorship is something that is highly valued, and what I like to say is whatever you put into it is what you get out of it. So it's a mutual relationship that you have to have with your mentor and the mentee as well. Students are then known as fellows. It is a fellow program. You learn as you continue on and have the opportunities for scholarships, on-campus mentorship, and professional development events. And we'll touch that a little bit more as we go ahead. So any questions thus far that Nate and I can touch on based on the material that we've covered so far. We'll have a couple seconds there, or we'll take a minute or two to have you all maybe type some questions or anything that you may think of as of now.
I just wanted to say hi.
Hello, who is this?
Leslie.
It's me, Leslie.
Leslie. Leslie is another one of our NUFs. Leslie, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Fantastic. I don't know if Andrew and Angela have briefed you, but we will definitely be tapping into you a little bit later in the presentation to kind of talk a little bit about your experiences enough, and you in particular are also a returner. So we will definitely allow you to kind of talk about that experience and why you even chose to return to NUF. So just a little heads up there that we will definitely be tapping into you later on in the future.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I see no questions here, so we'll go ahead and move on. But again, if there is something, we can go ahead and definitely address it. So some of the logistical aspects to the NUF program, and you know, just so we can go ahead and keep the transparency fully ahead as you prepare to apply. So it is a commitment aspect, and something that I tell all interests as well as NUFs who are in the program is whatever you get out of it is whatever you put in, right? And so even though this is, you know, for the most part, a very low commitment as far as meeting times, it is a fairly large commitment for the work that you're putting in and development that is happening. There are some mandatory events that we highly urge you that you partake because of the amount of times that we meet. So we meet twice a year for a retreat, once in fall and once in spring, and traditionally it is on a Friday that it does happen. The fall retreat takes place around September, and the spring takes place around the first week of that spring semester in January. We have monthly meetings, again, on Fridays, and we give you this schedule way ahead of time. Topics of the month are covered, campus partners come in, administrators, staff. So our meeting times as of now, and I don't foresee anything changing, occur on Fridays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So it is a 2-hour commitment once a month on Fridays. And like I mentioned, a lot of this time that goes in, we really dedicate to the topics of the month, and the campus partners that dedicate their time to come speak to you. So you're not hearing from just Nate and I, you're really hearing from the individuals, the practitioners that are professionally working for sometimes years in these positions. Just, you know, last week, which feels like forever ago, but just last week, we had 2 of our associate vice presidents of student affairs, Dr. Dave Edwards and Dr. Clint Michael Renault, come in and really talk about kind of their experiences. They kind of did a little inside the actor's studio, question each other, and allowed our NUFs to really get a sense about their journey and really any expertise they've shared. But we've had, again, other staff members come in. And so this just goes to prove the dedication and the worth and the value that our partners see in this program, and the dedication they're willing to put in for the future of student affairs. I also mentioned that there's opportunities for, you know, professional development and conferences. So we do have conferences that you are not required, once again, to attend, but again, highly encouraged to. We have, so I see there's a couple acronyms there that you might not be familiar with, so I'll go ahead and break it down. So we have WRC SAD, or WRSAD, which stands for Western Regionals and Careers in Student Affairs Day. We have the NASPA Western Regionals, and then we have the NASPA Nationals. One thing I will say about these aspects, if you know everything would have ran normally and this whole COVID pandemic would not have happened, we would have still not been able to attend nationals. There are some travel bans set by the California government, state government, and so depending on where the national lands, yeah, NUFs are able to go. And we do defer some costs for registration, lodging, and travel, depending on the need of the students. And we can touch a little bit about that later on. All right. So enough opportunities, all right? Just going on. So on-campus mentorship. Mentorship is something that is huge. It's something that I value very deeply. And some of the NUFs can attest to this a little later, but mentors, fellows are paired with a mentor to develop a sense of what a career in student affairs and higher education might be. You are more than welcome to pick their brain, way more than that. And topics that, that you could discuss with them, for example, can include networking experiences, knowledge, insight, and undertaking of the profession. So, mentorship can take you in many different ways, but these are just some topics that can kind of begin to inch into what your relationship might be. The guidance is, very important. Fellows and mentors meet around once a month and develop goals and facilitate discussions with each other. This is the minimal requirement that we have for mentors and mentees, is to meet at least once a month. But of course, depending on your schedule, depending on your development with the mentor, your relationship with them, you can meet more than once a month, but at least, very least, meeting once a month with them to kind of check in. Again, the conference opportunities are there. The annual regional opportunities exist. And this is really an opportunity for you to network, to learn, to expand your minds on what the field of student affairs is. This was taken, I believe, last year in our Western Regional, which took place in Sacramento. And so again, we provide those scholarship opportunities to help defer costs. And being fully transparent with you all, it's because of the cohort model that exists, allowing 10 to 12 students per year in our NUF program. We actually provide a professional development stipend of $1,000, which NUFs are able to use for conference registrations as well as lodging and travel. So that is some of the scholarship stipends that we provide to you all moving forward. And there is special exemptions made. For example, if you're present at a national conference and you used up your stipend, we can explore further funding to help you all fulfill that presentation and present your work to these opportunities. I see Nathaniel, sorry about that, Nate, has included two other individuals, Taylor and Laney. If you would like, Taylor and Laney, just briefly introduce yourself via the chat as Nate said there. And then we'll allow a couple minutes for you all to do that. And the rest of the individuals here can get to know who you are a little bit. All right, so as we wait for Taylor and Laney to finish up, we'll go ahead and continue just in the interest of time. But we would very much like to get to know you a little bit, Taylor and Laney. So whenever you have a chance, please feel free to type and introduce yourself in the chat. Furthering some of the opportunities that exist for NUFs, summer internships. So you are able to explore some summer internships with other campuses if they have a need, and as well as the Dungey Leadership Institute. And so that is something that occurs during the summer as well as different institutions throughout the country. This upcoming year, some of our NUFs will be applying for the DLI or Dungey Leadership Institution, which will be held in the University of Albany. That will take place in June. And so we're hoping that this pandemic blows over before then. Otherwise, that will also have to be postponed, but we are still waiting word. As of now, that is all on schedule to happen. But again, the summer leadership opportunities exist. these provide the more in-depth experience to grow and learn about the profession. Of course, those internships are more specialized because you'll be working with particular offices, but it also allows you to kind of seek those professional experiences that you may want through these internships. I see Taylor and Lainey introduce themselves a little bit. She, hers, pronoun sociology junior. To learn more about the area is why Taylor is interested in student affairs. Lainey, she, hers, pronouns first year psychology major, looking to pursue a job in student advising. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I can definitely see some of the passion as to why individuals are seeking to be involved in student affairs. It definitely takes place with an interaction or passion. And so you kind of begin to see a common theme as to why the bug tends to bite individuals of student affairs, as I like to call it. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing. Okay, so now the application process, the moment that probably most of you have been waiting for. How is it that I become part of the cohort at Cal State Fullerton? Well, look no further. I'm about to break it apart as much as I can here. Here we go. So do not worry, we'll break this apart together. So the application requirements for NASPA and CSUF are as follows. So to be considered for the admission to CSUF NASPA NUFP program, each applicant must meet the following requirements. So you must identify as a member of the traditionally underrepresented or historically disenfranchised student population, have at least a cumulative GPA of 2.75, but a 3.0 cum GPA is preferred. So a little bit about this point. There were kind of two parts to a NUFP program. You can be a NUFP nationally through NASPA, go through the same process, but the other aspect, the kind of level up aspect, is also being a part of the cohort of CSUF. And so our expectation is that you maintain at least a 3.0 cum GPA, because that is the requirement of most graduate schools across the country. And so we want to make sure that you are as prepared academically as well as co-curricularly for this endeavor. And I know that some of you are at different stages in your collegiate journey. Some of you are fourth years going to your fifth year and graduating. Some of you might be graduating this upcoming year as a fourth year. Some of you are just finishing up your first year. But we still maintain that 3.0 expectation to make sure that we are keeping you on pace to when graduate school comes around, you are competitive. Just because you get into the CSUF NUFP program, the NASPA NUFP program, does not guarantee you a spot in the cohort here at Cal State Fullerton. And we'll dive in a little bit more about that in the next slide. Your mentor must be a NASPA member. And so that is flexible. We can work with you on that. Carmen, you mentioned that will we be able to gain access to this presentation after? Yes, you will. And so the hope is that you actually provide us with your email, your CSUF email. If you would like, you can send that over to the CSUF NUFP email, which we will provide you a little bit. So if you can just send us your email, so that way we can forward you all this presentation. So yes, Carmen, we will be providing this for you. You have to at least have 2 or more semesters of an undergrad education left at the time of application. Junior or senior statuses are preferred, but obviously if you're first year going to your second year, we will not deter you from this experience. The reason why we put juniors and seniors as status preferred is, again, we want to make sure that we prepare them for the graduate school to come. But again, this last point is very flexible, and we can go ahead and work with you on that. So before we move on to the next slide, which kind of skipped over, any questions in regards to this slide in particular for the requirements? Okay. Chris, we have a question. How would we know if our mentor is a NASPA member? You can simply ask. Simply ask. It's a very fair question to ask of any mentor, potential mentor you're looking into. But again, it is not a complete requirement. So in the paperwork, if they are not a NASPA member, Nate and I can serve as your quote unquote paper mentor for NASPA. And then we can go ahead and, you know, process that, and NASPA can process that. But if this is somebody that you truly want to serve, have them serve as your mentor, and they are not a NASPA member, that is not a detriment to you. This is definitely something that we encourage. If you have a relationship with somebody, if you want to flourish that relationship as a student affairs mentor, that you continue on, and we can work with you on that. Great question. Thank you, Christopher, for that. And again, if there's any questions throughout, we can definitely answer them as we go. So the NUF application process itself. So as I mentioned, it's kind of a two-tiered aspect of it. So all application materials will be needed to be emailed, excuse me, and submitted via an online platform, which Nate and I will be sending to you all once the application process is open. So you must submit the CSUF application process along with the supplemental documents listed below. So the reason being is I talked a little bit about having this two-tier system. So NUF is run by NASPA. And so NASPA has to approve your participation overall. Once we get the green light from that and you meet the 275 or greater, that's when the next tier system kicks in, which is our own CSUF NUF cohort expectations. We look at all the same application requirements. We look at the online demographic form, the fellowship application questions, which we will email to you all, the mentor application. You have to complete the fellow and mentor agreement form, as well as a copy of your transcript. This could be official or unofficial. Usually we do the TDAs. You can just go ahead and scan that and send it in. And you also need at least one recommendation from a staff. Oh, I'm seeing. Can you all still hear me? I think my headphones. Okay, perfect. I'm showing that I'm still good. Fantastic. One letter of recommendations from a staff or faculty member. The letter must come from someone who will not be your NUF mentor. That is a very important piece to address there, because it's kind of unfair to have your mentor write your letter of recommendation. They know you, they know your potential. So we want to see if another faculty or staff member can tap into that. And that is the letter, what it should address, the potential as a future student affairs professional. So we leave that letter very open-ended. We have the letter just speak on that. And then that has to be turned in from them, has to be emailed to the CSUF NUF email, so we can go ahead and evaluate that moving forward. Any questions in regards to this? So I know that the application process could be a little intimidating. Oh, I have Mars with the question, can the letter of rec be from a student affairs professional who is no longer working in student affairs? Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. This could be somebody who worked previously in the field. And so we would definitely open that as well. We would just like somebody who knows your potential and primarily knows the field, because we want them to talk about your future potential in the profession. So we know that a lot of student affairs professionals move away from the field after some time, but we would really like to see somebody who is familiar with the profession, who is familiar with the work, so that way they're able to speak to your skills, your experiences, and really boast your ability to be a professional or a paraprofessional once you go into graduate school. So as I was mentioning, I know this could be a very intimidating process. It's really not. This is something that Nate and I can assist you on and further break down. We are always here to help you with any aspect of this, but consider this very checklist kind of process, because that's what it is. We provide the forms to you. The only work that has to be considered is really, again, what you're putting into it. And that's what you also get out of it. I can't stress that enough. And that's really for your development to occur throughout this process. So as of now, the application materials are due August 3rd of 2020. And this is, again, through the online platform of CSUF, which Nate and I will be emailing to you all. But again, if there's any information that you would like or are confused about, you can always reach us at csuf.nuf@fullerton.edu. And if you want to learn more aspects about NUF, you can actually just go to the main website, naspa.org, search bar, type in NUF, and then you will get all the details in regards to the NUF program, as well as some of those internship opportunities such as DLI and further information of what the NUF program can offer. As I mentioned, we really want to make sure that you all get this online platform to submit your materials. So if you could please email us via your CSUF email to csufnuf@fullerton.com so we can begin to collect your information, and we're able to send that over to you all when the application opens. We would greatly appreciate that. At this point, though, however, I really want to open it up for questions. And as you type your questions in, I would like to invite our 3 current NUFs that we have and really speak to what we had talked about a little earlier. So floor is open, you all. Please feel free to take it away.
One of the questions that people typically ask on NUF is how big is your cohort, or how big is our cohort? And I like to address that a little bit too, because every campus does NUF slightly differently. Some campuses are smaller and they have maybe 2 or 3 people in the cohort, while here at Cal State Fullerton, we've had a history of a bigger cohort. But correct me if I'm wrong, Samuel, we're still anticipating a group of no more than 12 next year?
Yes, that is correct, Nate. And so we have switched the model over. So as Nate touched on it, each SNUF program throughout established campuses are different. As before, our campus really was open to allow as many applicants as possible. However, we saw that that wasn't the best approach given the time and dedication that all of you should be dedicated to from professionals. And so we also made it in a way where we are preparing you for the graduate experience. And all graduate programs work in a cohort model where you go in, you get to know your peers, you work with your peers, and some of these cohorts are fairly small. So because of that aspect, we decided to hold it no more than 12 individuals. That is the average thus far. And so we will go ahead and continue on with having no more than 12 individuals, which makes the selection process really competitive. To kind of toot our own horn here a little bit, CSUF is nationally known for our NUF program. We are consistently tapped to assist in with other universities opening up their NUF programs, as well as, and the NUFs can speak to this a little bit, if you say you are a CSUF NUF at any conference, you will draw a crowd because of just the prestige that comes with being a NUF at CSUF.
Please feel free to type any questions you have. While you're thinking about another question, I'm going to ask the current NUF fellows some questions. Could you all talk about what has NUFP been like for you this year in terms of your relationship with one another in a small cohort?
I think, hi everyone, my name is Angela, I'm a current NUF. I think for me, being in this cohort model is really cool because you're able to like build relationships with other students around you who want to go into the same field as you. I know like we have like a group chat and we're all really close with one another. So it's just really nice having them as a support system.
Yeah, I agree. Like having them as a support system is like really awesome. Being able to connect with my cohort has been great. I think like for some of y'all that are going to go into the grad school application process next year, having that support system is amazing because you literally have like other students going through the same process as you. So you can like connect, and if you have questions, you can all like slowly answer them together. I think like when I was going through the grad school process, this time around, I really leaned on like my cohort to like help support me throughout that process.
And we do like a lot of bonding when we go to the conferences. So it's really fun, really supportive. It's just a really nice environment to be in.
I super agree, especially when Samuel was talking about how last year's cohort was a little bit larger. It was a little bit larger. And even though I loved last year's cohort and I had a really strong bond with them as well, I feel like this year's cohort, because we were a smaller group, I felt like it was very personalized and tailored to what we needed as a group. And I feel like that's really nice, especially jumping on with both Angela and Andrew talked about. I think for moments when I was applying to grad school, I really did lean on this group, as well as we love celebrating each other. So every once in a while, our group me is always popping, like we're always messaging each other about something. And when we message each other, hey, look, I heard from this school. Oh, look what happened to me today. And it's really fun. Like just last night, we were all in a Zoom just like this, just talking because we missed each other. But I really do believe it's a really great support system, especially just touching a little bit on what Samuel was saying. There is prestige when you're enough at CSUF. Like y'all have no idea. People want to come to CSUF for our enough program. It is very developed. It's really great, the connections that we're able to create and get, as well as just the cohort. Like we all went to Portland in November, and I feel like that experience completely changed us and made us a really strong future professionals. And so I support these people, and I'm really glad that we're all here together doing this.
Thank you, Nufs. I really appreciate you sharing a little bit about that. Any questions that may have sparked up from our interests? And again, I want to draw your attention to the chat. So as Nate mentioned, if you could please email us at CSUFNUF, that way we can begin our mailing list. And you can go ahead and obtain the online form to begin submitting your documents.
I'm also very interested in hearing more from our participants in the chat today. What was it that inspired you or sparked an interest in you in learning more about student affairs, and what is it that you hope to get out of NUF? You're also welcome to unmute yourself if you would like to chat with us. You don't have to chat in the chat box if you want to just speak up as well.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Yes, no? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think for me, I'm interested in this program just because being in a marginalized identity or like historically kind of non-included identities, it's harder to kind of find connections on the professional level. So this seems like a really great way to get those connections, especially in a profession that like requires so many connections, or like you will really like succeed off of like who you know and like how you know them, which can be very difficult if you're, you know, first gen or you're trying to navigate higher ed for the first time on your own. But yeah, and just overall the interest of student affairs. So that in combination is what's calling me to NUF and NASPA, I would say.
Thank you, Mars. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think in any career, right, or any field, having that networking, that connections with other people is really important, and mentorship is very important. In the field of student affairs, we don't have a bachelor's degree, and most people either go straight into the field after their bachelor's degree, or they go to graduate school to get their master's. And so because we don't have a bachelor's degree for student affairs, many people don't know where to find those connections, those network opportunities. So NUF is one of those great opportunities for people to be connected with other professionals already in the field, as well as with other students who are interested in entering the field. So this way you can start building your network early, even before you start graduate school, or even if you plan on entering the field right after your undergrad. It's a great resource for you to feel connected and be actually connected to people at the local level, at the regional level, and at the national level. Anyone else would like to share why they're interested in entering student affairs? All right, let me turn it back to our NUF students then. What has been the most challenging part of NUF this year for you?
Time management. Okay, but I think for me personally, I think that was one of the hardest things that I had to challenge, because even though it's not like the craziest time commitment that NUF is, it is still really important that when we go to all of these meetings, especially because we have like VPSAs, or we have really important people on campus and events in general that we should be going to, especially because NUF isn't a large time commitment. So when we do have those once-a-month meetings, it's really important. And sometimes it was hard for me only because I know me and a couple other people were applying to grad school. So it was really difficult because sometimes we were flown out to go to grad school interviews, or personally for me, I have a 5-hour Friday class. So that made it sometimes really difficult, especially the days I had presentations. But I think that was one of the hardest things I had to do. But I really did appreciate how everyone was so accommodating, and how my NUF cohort was able to tell me any work I missed or pass me on any notes. But that's one of the biggest things, is that understanding that this is a large time commitment, even though we say we're like, it's not a lot, but also it is a lot, because it's a lot to take in, and the conferences and being able to be flexible with that. However, I fully 110% would do it all over again, because I feel like it's one of the best commitments I made in my undergrad career. I mean, I'm going to grad school, so I think it was a good investment, if I do say so myself.
I agree with Leslie, and I think NUF is really flexible in terms of that. And again, what she said, a lot of the members of the cohort, like, they fill you in on everything you missed.
Great, thank you. What about your relationship with your mentors? What has that been like? Could you talk about your relationship with your mentor and what you learned from your mentors?
I think my mentor has been able to connect me with so many people on campus, and she's also served as a really, really, really big support system. I'm like, oh my gosh, where were you like my 4 years in college? She's literally changed my life. She's the most amazing person ever, and she always knows like what to say, and she's just phenomenal. So I really enjoyed my relationship with my mentor.
Who's your mentor, Angela?
My mentor is Juliana Hernandez. She's the Associate Director of Outreach and Recruitment.
Yay. My mentor is Xiaopin Shui, and she works within student life and leadership. She is one of the coordinators, but specifically works with like sports and sports clubs. And I have learned so much from her because we're very different people, and I think that's what I appreciate, because I think she helps me slow down and she helps me breathe, especially because she shares a lot of the identities that I share. And sometimes when I'm talking with other people that don't share those identities that I do consider mentors, it becomes really frustrating because there's that lack of understanding and that lack of connection. But I feel like Xiaopan, not only does she understand, but she helps me really reflect on my actions and what's like next steps. She's also connected me with so many amazing people and has just given me amazing resources as a mentor. And for having her as a mentor for 2 years, I feel like we understand each other, we understand how we communicate, and we understand how we're best able to help each other. So I truly appreciate that mentorship aspect within NUF, because, and maybe this will ease some of your nerves, actually when I was applying to NUF, I didn't have a mentor. Like I didn't have anyone on paper. So, but because NUF was so amazing and so accommodating, they were able to work with me. I had a mentor down on paper. This was just my situation. It might be totally different for you, but they had a mentor down on paper. And then eventually I did get a mentor, and it was someone I've never met before, but learning more about her and her functional areas that she worked in the past, it's been really rewarding. And I've just truly appreciated the friendship and the mentorship that I was able to develop. And it really was all thanks to NUF, because at the time I was just getting into student affairs as like a sophomore. So when I was trying to apply for my junior year, I didn't really know too many people because the person I wanted to pick was actually leaving. So that's some fun facts.
Yeah, I also didn't have like a mentor in mind. So I emailed the NUF email, and then Samuel, he like sent me like a list of 3 people, and I reached out to them. And then during one of my meetings with Juliana, we got to know each other, and we just wanted to make sure we were a good fit for each other. And now she's my mentor, and it just went up from there.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Again, I want to reemphasize to all of you who are interested in applying for NUF that, it's great if you already have someone who you identify as a mentor who works on campus, someone who works in student affairs who can support you and guide you, but you absolutely do not have to have a current mentor in order to apply. We will help you find that mentor. And sometimes even if you already have someone who is a mentor and you want to find someone new to have a new experience, we can help you with that as well. And so I would encourage you to think broadly about your experiences. If you already have a mentor who works in housing, for example, and you're very familiar with housing, but you want to get more experience in conduct or student activities or orientations or diversity work, like reach out and find someone to serve as your mentor, or contact us and we can give you some names for you to reach out to, so that way you can be connected with someone new. So now that you have 2 mentors, for example, right? One officially for NUF and one sort of on an informal level. So this way you are broadening your network of mentors and people who can support you. So we are getting close to the 5 o'clock mark. I just want to make sure that if you have any questions at this point, please let us know. You're also welcome to email us again at csufnuf@fullerton.edu, and we will be able to answer some of your questions, as well as include you into our mailing list for when applications are ready to go out. I have this workshop recorded, so we'll try to get this shared to other folks as well. We do have another workshop scheduled for April 16th from 4 to 5 p.m. also on Zoom. So please let your friends know if you have other folks who are interested in NUF and student affairs that we will be here on Zoom again with the same link, same information, and they can join us and ask questions. Otherwise, they can also send us an email at csufnuf@fullerton.edu. Samuel?
Yes, so definitely echoing times two what Nate has said, and you've heard from our current NUFs, which thank you by the way so much for dedicating this time to speak to our potential cohort for the 2021 academic year. We really hope that you have found this session very helpful. Moving forward, we are looking forward to your applications. And once again, if you have any questions whatsoever or anything that you want to clarify or dive deeper in, do not hesitate to let us know. Again, that email is csufnuf@fullerton.edu. But thank you all so much for coming and tagging along in this virtual meeting. Stay safe, stay healthy. And again, we are here as a resource as much as possible. So thank you all for joining. And with that, we conclude our session, and Nate will be going ahead and sending this recording to you all. And then we will work on giving you all, once you sent us your email, this presentation and giving you that link once our online platform opens up for applications. Thank you again so much, and we look forward to hearing from you all soon.
Yeah, join. Woohoo!